Apple started in a garage, two guys building computers, right? Selling to a tiny group of nerds. Then Apple gets its first real win with the Apple II. It's like an old computer. I actually grew up in Silicon Valley, and like the high school that I was supposed to go in, it was actually where the first, like the Apple computer was supposed to be made, right? But anyways, back to the point, the early Macs, right? Then revenue jumps, right? People got excited, and the market clearly proved that they have stuff that people want. So the product worked, and there was demand just from the fact that they made money, right? As Apple grows, it gets messy, right? As they start growing, too many products, then they started getting confusion, leadership, drama, just a bunch of distractions, right? And then, not a lot of people mention this, right? But Apple starts drifting away, right? From what made it good, which is just a few great products, clearly marketing it, right? Just simple things, right? Sales started to slow down, margins started to shrink, focus disappeared. And guess what? You know what people started to blame? They started to blame the industry. They started to blame the competition. They started to blame not having enough time, all those different stuff, right? So the fix is to cut the noise and refocus, right? And the best way to do that is, where are your hours and energy actually going, right? So the best thing to do is crave out a non-negotiable daily. Like, let's say, even if, for example, maybe you had a different business, or maybe you have other XYZ going on, right? Like, you should set a daily non-negotiable of like maybe doing X amount of DMs or X amount of this as a non-negotiable, right? And the best way to do that is I'm going to give you guys this, right? So there's that, right? So yeah, Steve Jobs back in 1997, like when he came back, Apple was bloated, dozens of product lines, none truly dominant, right? His move when he came back to Apple wasn't to invent 50 new things, right? He does the same boring and ruthless thing. What does he do? He cuts. He asks himself, which products actually matter? Where are we truly winning? He shrinks everything down to a 2x2 grid, right? Which was desktops, portables, consumers, all that stuff, right? And guess what he did? Instead of adding new stuff, right? He's already got the validation from the market. He doubles down on what works, right? Like maybe if you are getting organic leads from school, right? And you've grown your community to, let's say, 600 people, right? What if you get in front of the school page even more and you double down school itself, right? If you're getting high quality from there. If you're already posting Instagram content and you already have the skills needed to grow out your audience, right? What if you double down on content itself, if that's what's already working for you, and you go all in on that, right? If you've gotten some clients through outreach, right? What if you go all in on that, right? So these things that I say to you apply depending on what your strengths are, right? So here's the fix on how you do this, right? You just simply reverse engineer what works, right? For example, maybe are you getting a couple of calls booked, right? Let's say you got 2 calls booked for next week, right? Ask yourself, what did I do to get it? Where did I get this from? And how did I get it, right? When you ask yourself that, you remove friction and you simplify things way more, and it just feels way better, right? And then let's say if you've already gotten a couple of clients, let's say you've gotten about 17 clients or 20 clients, right? Then it's like Steve Jobs. You have a proven thing that works, right? What you do is now you do signal before volume, because signal before volume amplifies what worked, right? So if you've gotten 17 clients, something that would be smart that I would personally do is identify the 1 to 2 sources that actually produce them, right? And then after that, you cut everything. You cut the rest, you cut the bloat, and then you do more of that. Maybe it could be down to the specifics, right? Like, for example, I've had times where I've networked in a certain group and I've gotten like 3, 4+ clients just from that networking in one certain group. So what do? I do more of that. I remove the bloat, right? It could be in terms of where you got this lead source from, right? All that stuff. Like, instead of casting a bunch of wide nets, if you just simplify and you cut it, you're going to have more energy that goes towards the right things, okay? So here's the fix. It's not a new tactic. It's auditing what works, right? Because if you're always working in the business, like you're always sending DMs or you're always like just fully making content, but if you don't analyze, like let's say you haven't gotten a client, maybe analyze where you've gotten your calls booked from. Like if let's say your last 4 booked calls was from purely content, right? And you message these warm leads that you got from content, maybe just go all in on content. Like make the best content, dominate that industry, right? For example, if you're crushing it on YouTube, right? And you know you could just go, if you truly go all in on YouTube, you could crush it. Dominate that space on YouTube. If you're crushing it on outreach, right? Go all in on that. Dominate that space, right? Just double down on what works, like Apple did with the Mac and later with the iPod. It's the fundamental principles, right?